We're going to continue in the series Family, Friends, Fidelity. Proverbs chapter 22. We'll read it out of the familiar passage, and then we'll go a little more in depth through another translation. Give an ear. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. The rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the froward. He that doth keep his soul shall be far from them. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. He that soweth iniquity shall reap vanity, and the rod of his anger shall fail. He that have a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Cast out the scorner. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. He that loveth pureness of heart, for the grace of his lips, the king shall be his friend. The eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge. The eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge, and he overthroweth the words of the transgressor. The slothful man saith, the slothful man saith, the slothful man saith, there is a lion without. I shall be slain in the streets. The mouth of strange women is a deep pit. The mouth of strange women is a deep pit. He that is abhorred of the Lord shall fall therein. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Bow down thy ear and hear the words of the wise. Bow down thy ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. And the my is his knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if thou wilt keep them within thee. Keep Torah within your very being. Not only learn it and can recite it and impress people, but live by it. Make your decisions by it. Let Torah filter your daily decisions, and your lives and your quality of life will improve. They shall be withal befitted in thy lips, that thy trust may be in the Lord. I have made known to thee this day, even to thee. And then that means especially to you. Have not I written to thee excellent things in counsels and knowledge, that I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth, that thou mightest answer the words of truth to them that send unto thee. Rob not the poor because he is poor. Rob not the poor because he is poor. Neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. For the Lord will plead their cause and spoil the soul of those that spoil them. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Here it said man, but that includes woman also. Be not thou one of them that strike hands, or of them that are a surety for debts. If thou hast nothing to pay, why should he take away thy bed from under thee? Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. That's a way of saying respect boundaries. EWC, relearn how to respect boundaries. It's key for your success. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Let's hear it out of another translation. Rather than wealth, choose a good reputation. Esteem over gold and silver. It said choose a good reputation. Choose a good reputation. Rich and poor have this in common. Yah made them both. The clever see trouble coming and hide. The simple go on and pay the penalty. The reward for humility is fear of Yah, along with wealth, honor, and life. Along with wealth, honor, and life. Thorns and snares beset the way of the stubborn. Thorns and snares beset the way of the stubborn. And you can also put in highly opinionated. He who values his life keeps his distance from them. Thank you, my friend. That's my buddy. Train a child in the way he should go, and even when old, he will not swerve from it. Now, they may take a little detour, because most of us did. But we'll come back. He who sows injustice reaps trouble. He who sows, and again, this he is he or she, who sows injustice reaps trouble. And the rod of his or her angry outbursts will fail. He who is generous is blessed, because he shares his food with the poor. Throw out the scoffer. Throw the scoffer out. Throw the scoffer out, and quarreling goes too. Strife and insults cease. I'm going to adopt that. Throw the scoffer out, and quarreling goes too. Strife and insults cease. Because they'll have to do it outside here. He who loves the pure-hearted and is gracious in speech will have the king as his friend. I'm going to read that again, because that's not what you got out of that translation. Not knocking it, but you can understand this a lot better if you desire to. He who loves the pure-hearted and is gracious in speech will have the king as his friend. And again, his can be her as well. The eyes of Yah protect the man with knowledge, but he overturns the plans of a traitor. A lazy man says, "There's a lion outside. I'll be killed if I go out in the street." And what that's talking about is the guy that don't want to go look for work. He's always got an excuse. Or gal. Because there's a lot of gals that don't want to work also. And if you don't have to, that's wonderful. But a lot of us got bills. And some of us retired with a ton of bills. I guess you're waiting on heaven to write a check. We'll talk about that a little later, because that's something you should be concerned about now, not some of this other foolishness. But we'll get to that a little later. The mouth of an adulteress is a deep pit. The man with whom Yah is angry falls into it. Doing wrong is firmly tied to the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far away from him. Both oppressing the poor to enrich oneself and giving to the rich yield only loss. I want to park there for a minute, because a lot of that goes on, and sad to say, but truthful to say, a lot of that goes on in churches by people that should know better, or by people that project that they know better. Let your speech match your life. We don't need any more blowhards. We've had enough. Let your speech match your life. Giving to the rich, yield only loss. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why have we done that? Most of those kind of gifts are still collecting dust in somebody's closet, or it got sold at a garage sale. And we spent good money for that gift, giving it to somebody that's got everything they already want. And we walk right by somebody with needs, going to buy an expensive gift for somebody that don't need it. And sometimes don't even want it. But they're being gracious by accepting it. That happens a lot in churches. And it says here, it leans only to loss. You wonder why you can't get your finances straight? Some of us need to retool our value system. I was talking with some fellas, and payday was coming up, and I'm trying to be careful about not giving unsolicited advice. I'm trying to be real careful about that. But somebody opened the door. And so when that door opened, I began sharing some things about how you can stretch your dollars. And as unfortunately generally happens, somebody said, well, no, I don't want to do all of that. So I said, okay, conversation's over. Let's get back to work. And a few days later, the same person that said what he couldn't do needed an advance. And now remember, I didn't give unsolicited advice. They opened the door. I gave him the advance. But I really wasn't happy about it because it's frustrating dealing with people that have no qualms about taking up your time, doesn't matter what you got going on. Feeling entitled. We got that real bad in this country. Real bad. Even our poor is entitled. Or at least they think they are. All of us think we are. We need to be careful about what we say to people, what we ask people. Again, it goes back to respecting boundaries. And EWC has had boundaries purposely erased. I'm bringing them back. I'm bringing them back. We need it because that's a part of order. Listen to this. Pay attention and listen to the words of the wise. Apply your heart to my knowledge. It's talking about Torah again. Torah, not necessarily the message that goes out weekly. Torah is Torah. Torah is his teachings and instructions. It's not just something to be memorized to impress people. It's really a command for us to live it out. You demonstrate it. And you demonstrate it in every facet of your life. Every means every, all facets of your life, not just when you're on your way to your house of worship or going to Bible study or whatever religious other gatherings we have. It's when you're in the grocery store. Amen. It's when you're at the football game. It's when you're cutting grass. It's when you're having an argument at home. It's when you got mean, ugly thoughts about another brother or sister, or maybe somebody that's not a brother or sister. It's when you're in the toilet. Hello? See, this whole thing, folks, listen. Get out of the habit, and I blame the church, the Christian church system, for the way we've been trained. This isn't something you just do because it's nice. You got to learn this stuff so that you live.
That's right. That's right.
I get really irritated with church folk because most of us are church folk if we worship on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, whatever days. But what do you like the rest of the week? Correction. What are we like the rest of the week? I'm not a you preacher, not a preacher. I just try to follow Torah. That's it. And not only follow it, but try to live by it. And yes, it gets uncomfortable. Pay attention and listen to the words of the wise. Apply your heart to my knowledge, for it is pleasant to keep them deep within you. Have all of them ready on your lips. And I know most of us, particularly those that go to a lot of the, I'm not going to call, a lot of us that go to a lot of the churches, we all learn it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out of him. You know, and we get all excited. Ooh. Now that's true. But you know, as you get in with this thing, because under each one of them, it has some verbiage, gives you a little bit more understanding about it. And, you know, for believers, it's important because he said it. He said that. And the big question I have is, why did we change from that? Did he tell us to change from that? Something to think about. And we're going to do more of that thinking rather than going by our emotional whatever. And there's nothing wrong with emotions. Lord knows. We need them. But they shouldn't control everything. No, you stay in control. Some of us have made some of the biggest mistakes of our lives because we made an emotional decision. If we're being honest and not trying to still project some false sense of spiritual superiority. Bunch of baloney. We should stop being plastic. We don't need any more of that. We don't need any more of that. We need to grow up. Listen to this. He says, I want your trust to be in Yah. This is why I'm instructing you about them today. He's talking again about Torah. That's what he's talking about. We've made it about something else. Listen to this. I have written you worthwhile things, full of good counsel and knowledge, so you will know that these sayings are certainly true and bring back true sayings to him who sent you. Don't exploit the helpless because they are helpless, and don't crush the poor in court. Now, I know a lot of landlords don't want to hear that. And, you know, I understand. I understand the landlord's vantage point. You know why? Because I are one. But here we got instructions, don't crush them. But I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of people that got that stimulus money and they didn't think to pay their landlord. Because all they heard was somebody on TV say, I ain't got to pay my rent. Not realizing that that thing wasn't going to run like that forever. Now, the government, that's another discussion, but I'm going somewhere with this. The government thought it was doing a good thing by saying, hey, you know, we got to keep everybody safe, so don't go nowhere, don't go to work, you know, shut the whole thing down, and we're going to take care of this. We're going to stimulate the economy. And true enough, guys, when they were sending out those checks, they wanted you to spend them. They didn't want you to save them. They didn't want you to pay bills. They really didn't. That's the truth. They wanted you to stimulate the economy. And a lot of you did your best. Again, I'm sorry. A lot of us did our best. I didn't do that, but I like to say us, we, not you, us. A lot of us did our best. And I stood up here and I told you, if you get a check, cash it. But I told you, don't put it all in the bank for good reason. These are the things you need to concern yourself with. Not some of this other stuff. But we'll get to that later too. You see, and I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking because I'll tell you something. Regardless of your party affiliation or whatever, being the president of the United States is a tough job. So you all, I'm not being political because I said the same thing. People love to lambaste George Bush too. And we were having a men's meeting, a men's breakfast in the fellowship hall. And that was, I don't know, back in that time, Greg, it was about 35 guys, 35 men back there having breakfast. And man, for about the next 5 minutes or so, I mean, they killed him. You know, I mean, people make jokes. He was a C student. Well, he still was president. You know, talked about all his shortcomings. Yeah, but he could have bought and sold every one of us in there 10 times over. That didn't make him better than us, but why lambaste him? That's a hard job. The mayor of the city. You know, and I know a lot of us don't have much for politicians and city officials and all that. I'm going to tell you something. All of those positions are thankless. Because what happens is you get in there and you try to live up to whatever promises you made, although you find out half the time some of that stuff you was talking about, well, yes, I got a plan for this, we'll do this and that. And then when you get in office, they find out, oh, sir, we heard you when you said that. You can't do this. See, a lot of those guys, when they got in office, that's when they found out how powerless they were. But I said all of that to say what they could have done, because that's another thing. Everybody that's sitting on their behind, not in the game, but sitting in the stands, is an expert. I could smack them all. See, I played sports, and when they hit you, you felt it. But there were always guys in the stands criticizing. And I tell you, man, that used to really get my goat. Because I'm like, hey, if you all that, why you sitting up in the stands? Get your lazy butt out here and put a uniform on. Get up here and help us. See, it's easy to take pot shots at a leader, talk a bunch of junk, sitting in the confines of your soft chair. I have very little patience for that sort of thing, and I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to be kind, but I am no longer going to be nice. Because this is what happens to nice people. Nice people usually get roped into something they really don't want to do. But to try to please people, they go ahead and do it. And I'm like, why would you want to live like that? And my suggestion to you is you stop being nice. Be kind, but stop being nice. That means if you really don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't let somebody guilt you into something. Don't let somebody trick you into something. Oh, we fallen in sin. Whatever shall we do? Stop. You go your way, I'm going mine. Repent. What happened to that? Why jump out the frying pan into the fire? Don't exploit the helpless because they are helpless. And don't crush the poor in court. The point I was going to make, if they had just not only said, okay, you don't have to pay rent, but then contact the mortgage companies, because not all landlords had their homes paid for. Not all, you see, they were taking your rent money and taking a portion of that and paying the mortgage. That's called leverage. So when you stop paying, when we stop paying, a lot of them lost their property. Is that right? No, that's not right. And you look on the TV and people go, cancel rent. Cancel you. Folks, if we're people of honor, we pay our debts. Let me say that again. If we belong to the Most High, we pay our debts. But see, the government didn't contact the mortgage companies. See, here again, in America, if you're considered well off, people don't like you. Like, you see, everybody wasn't given things. And you know what? I'm not going to even knock the people that were. I mean, somebody had to get it. Somebody had to be born in some of those families. Wasn't me. But a lot of people honestly feel like, well, you know, they don't need the money. Oh, that's another thing. I lent some money. And it took forever to get it back. And you know what the person's reason for taking so long? Do you know what they had the gall to say? And they were a believer. What are you bugging me about that for? You don't need it. That's my money. I wanted to strike him. A lot of people got that attitude. I couldn't believe it. Now, I shouldn't have gotten angry, but I did. And I really wanted to punch him out. And you know, now I'm thinking about it, I still want to hit him. Oh, wow. People, church people. Ugh. Let me stop. I'm getting caught up in my feelings. It says, don't exploit the helpless because they are helpless, and don't crush the poor in court, for Yah will plead their case for them and withhold life from those who defraud them. I was like, wow, that's deep. And this other one says, don't associate with an angry man. Make no hot-tempered man your companion. Ooh. Ladies, did you hear that? But you know what? Again, that could be man or woman. Because there are countries that have hot-tempered people. And they think it's kind of, you know. I'm thinking of a few countries right now. Don't associate with an angry man. Make no hot-tempered man your companion. If you do, you may learn his ways and find yourself caught in a trap. And again, not just man, woman too. Oh, I ain't gonna ask that. I was gonna ask something. I'm not gonna ask. Listen to this one. Please, saints, listen to this because a lot of you, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. A lot of you do too much for your grandchildren. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. I'm gonna move on, but a lot of you, I'm sorry, a lot of us do too much for our grandchildren. I know they precious. But you know, when I said grandchildren, most of you thought about the little precious ones. I'm talking about grown folk. Got their own apartment. And you barely can pay your mortgage, and now you got to pay their apartment. They talking about their lights got, well, hey, aren't you working? Well, yeah, well, what did you do with your money? We don't ask those kind of questions.
Teach them to fish.
I know that's your grandchild. I know. I mean, some of us, we got a weak spot for nieces and nephews too. But guys, in the coming days, particularly before June, July, get a bearing on your finances. I'm just informing you, there's some stuff coming down the pike. You got to be wise with your money. Please be wise with your money, because right now, crime is going to be going up. It's already going up. And be careful where you're using your debit cards, because the credit card, debit card scams are on the rise. The crooks now have technology where they'll call your house and it'll say Wells Fargo Bank, but it's not Wells Fargo Bank. Their instrumentation is unbelievable, the technology that the crooks now have. And many of us have been scammed because we're not keeping our eye on our money. As far as the banks, I've told you before, and I wasn't joking, don't keep the majority of your money in a bank. If you can, get with a credit union. Keep the bank, and here I'm talking to you, and I'm dealing with Wells Fargo. I got my business account with them, and they have been caught doing a whole lot of not so right stuff. And so you say, well, Barry, why are you still with them? Because I'm lazy and they're close to my house. But I do have, I got a personal account with Virginia Credit Union. And I'm going to do some other things. But guys, I'm just trying to get you ahead of what's coming. I understand a lot of us love information. And I'm going to share a saying with people that like a lot of information. A lot of us are fat with knowledge of the scriptures. I mean, we just love information. And we are all being overstimulated with our phones, our computers. And the more they tell us, the more give me more, give me more. I'm not going to do nothing with it, but give me more. I just want to be able to say, well, I knew that. So the person you told you knew that, they ain't doing nothing, you ain't doing nothing. So now you got two do-nothings talking about what they knew. What good is it? What good is it? Don't be one of those who give pledges, guaranteeing loans made to others. For if you don't have the wherewithal to pay, they will take your bed away from underneath you. And they will. And all of us have been in that situation. It could be a real close friend. Sometimes it's a relative. Sometimes it's a cousin, an aunt, or uncle. Probably never a grandparent. And isn't that something? Have you noticed a grandparent probably has never asked for anything? These, most of the ones I know, I don't know, it might be some others, because things have changed a lot. But it's aunt, uncle, cousin, friend. And I mean, you know, the thing is, a lot of times when they come to you with that, it's not $10. You know, it's thousands of dollars that they're asking you to, you know, get my back on this. Bro, I love you. No, I'm not. And that's hard. I thought you loved me. I do love you. But that's when you can throw what the words say. See, now that's when it can come to your defense. And you can get the King James Version out and read it to them. Because if they'll believe it too, they say, all right. But can you do it anyway? No, folks, we listen. We got to get smart in a hurry. In a hurry. This one. Don't move the ancient boundary stone set up by your ancestors. It was put there for a reason. And even the world has a saying. And the world and what we call the church is all the same to me. Good fences make good neighbors. And they do. Because why? You know how far to go, and right where your property line ends, there's a fence. They can't come on your side without going over the boundary, and you can't go to their side. So you can meet and talk every day at the fence and not encroach on either person's space. But I'm not just talking about fences in that vernacular. I'm talking about personal space also. Stay out of people's face. Stay out of people's face. If you got something to say, stop at a respectable distance. You don't have to get close up on somebody. That's how an accident can occur. That's also part of respecting boundaries. A person's personal space is just that. I don't care. When we go to the same church, so what? And something else that goes along with respecting boundaries, we need to learn how to wait for an invitation and stop inviting ourselves. What is he talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Stop inviting yourself. If the invitation doesn't come, then it wasn't for you. If somebody's having a party and I didn't get invited, I just didn't get invited. I don't need to go up to the person. Hey, I thought we were okay. We are okay. I'm having a private dinner party and I just didn't invite you. Now that would hurt some of us, but I can respect that. When I was coming up, I used to tell my parents all the time, listen, please don't throw me no surprise party. And they would say, well, why? I said, because you would invite all the wrong people. Because the people they thought were my friends were not necessarily my friends. See, people just assume because you go to the same church that, hey, that's a good, no. And see, all of that stuff's connected. All of that stuff's connected to chaos. That stuff's out of order. And that stuff gets people in situations, if you hook them up to a lie detector test, they'd have to tell the truth. And if they don't, they ought to get shocked. No, I just threw that in. Oh my goodness. Don't move the ancient boundary stones set up by your ancestors. I mean, folks, just for a second, look at the boundaries that have been erased. Look at your parents' generation. Look at your generation. Look at your children's generation, and look at your children's children's generation, and look at how many boundaries have just been wiped away. And it has not been for the good. I mean, and I'm not picking on the young, but I'm just saying, they do stuff now. I mean, the music, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, and to them, it's like, hey, you don't like that, Uncle Brad? No. See, when you erase the boundaries, you also lower the standard. And so that's why you can have people, checking him. Hey, how you doing? You turn around, person following you so close, you turn around, you bump right into, that's too close. I mean, and saints, you all need to be more observant. If you go in places and that same person's always there, that's kind of creepy. I guess some of you are impressed. Some of us, I guess, get impressed by that kind of stuff. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm like, hey, what's your problem? Another thing, we're too touchy-feely. Well, that's, if anything, COVID's kind of said, hey, keep your hands to yourself. But a lot of too touchy-feely, too familiar. We don't know people like that. We need to stop that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, all of that leads to a decline in standard. And when your standards decline, your quality of life does so also. Which is why some of us are catching hell right now. Sitting up in church looking prosperous. I did say looking. I hope for real, but, hey. Do you see a man skilled at his work? Oh, Rich, I'm sorry. Do you see a man skilled at his work? He will serve kings, not obscure people. From now on, Reg, seriously, do this. I apologize. I ran over. That was not my intent. The Most High bless you.